Hello, this is Jeffrey Faulkner speaking. Now, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes no official position on the specific geographic locations of events in the Book of Mormon. But I want to point out some things about Mesoamerica, which I believe is the Promised Land. Some important things. And I also want to point out that the Book of Mormon is pervasively symmetrical. It's full of symmetry. Just like the literature is chiastic, using the literary device of chiasm, the geography is also symmetrical. You have the land northward and the land southward. You have the narrow neck of land, which is the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. Now, Lehi landed here and encountered the Mayan civilization, which was already an ancient civilization, well developed, but they were idolatrous. They had a somewhat high civilization, but it was idolatrous and had no correct idea of God. They were idolaters. Mulek, also coming from Jerusalem on Phoenician ships, landed here, and he encountered the remnant of the Olmec civilization. The Mulekites were assimilated into the Olmec. The Mulekites marshaled and organized and became leaders of the remnant of the Olmec, and it became the what the scientists call the Mehesoke or the Mixosoke civilization, run pretty much by the Mulekites. The civilization here, the Mayan civilization, was marshaled and organized and pretty much controlled by the Lamanite branch of the Lehites. Remember, the Lehites divided into Nephites and Lamanites. The Lamanites pretty much took control of the Mayan civilization, just like the Mulekites took control of the Mixosoke. Now, the Lamanite influence spread from highland Guatemala down into the southern Maya lowlands, or the Usumacinta riverine system, while the Mulekite civilization spread up the Grijalva River and the Pacific coastal plain in this direction. So you had the Lamanite Maya going this way, and the Mulekites going this way. There was a little outpost of the Mayan civilization, the Nephites, a little colony, I should say, that migrated across the Motagua Fault Zone, the narrow strip of wilderness, and down here to discover an upriver outpost of the Mulekites, or Mixosoke, in the city Zarahemla. They had the brass plates, which had the Old Testament up to the prophets, down to the time of Jeremiah. So they had great influence over the Mulekite civilization. Remember, there was a large stone brought down, probably from Levanta, brought upriver to Zarahemla, and Mosiah I interpreted the engravings on the stone. So the Mulekites took control of the Mixosoke civilization and the Nephites, and the Lamanites took control of the Mayan. So you had the Mixosoke and the Mayan. And it kind of, to me, resembles the yin and the yang, the Lamanite Mayan and the Mulekite Mixosoke. The Mulekites going this way, the Lamanites going that way. So that's symmetrical. Just like there's a land northward and a land southward, there's a North Sea and a South Sea, a West Sea and an East Sea, the East Sea being the same as the North Sea and the West Sea being the same as the South Sea, so that the region was like an island. It was insular in a way and full of high civilization and many books. It was a literary region, many books of all kinds, many idol gods of all kinds, and a lot of idolatry, similar to the situation that existed in the land of Canaan when Abraham came in. Now, what we need to keep in mind is that in the Book of Mormon, the Isthmian lands of desolation and bountiful by synecdoche stood for the land northward and the land southward, and the entire region by synecdoche stood for the Americas, North and South America, synecdoche. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Again, you have the Mixozoque and the Maya. You have the two branches. And we'll see later on that it became the Nawa and the Maya. Because looking at my outline here, I want to say that there was a mass migration of Nephites and converted Lamanites who had been converted to Christ around 50 BC and thereafter into the land northward. Later, there were many apostates and traitors that migrated into the land northward. The apostates and traitors tended to concentrate here in the Valley of Mexico, the land with many large bodies of water. Now, at the time of Christ, when the Lord Jesus Christ died on the cross at Jerusalem, volcanoes erupted all over this region, especially two huge volcanoes in the Valley of Mexico was Popocatépetl, and down here near the fault zone was volcano Tacaná, but there were many other volcanoes, and there was terrible destruction and a great reduction in population around 30 AD at the time that the Son of God died on the cross. The creator of heavens and earth died on a cross, and the earth moaned and groaned and volcanoes erupted. So what happened next? Christ fulfilled his prophecies that he gave to the prophets in the Bible and the Book of Mormon, and he visited the Nephites in the land bountiful, at the temple in the land bountiful. Jesus Christ, the resurrected God of this earth, Son of Elohim, he visited the Nephites here and he taught them. And after that, there were 2 centuries of peace and harmony and prosperity. But in the beginning of the 3rd century AD, the people started to tribalize again and return to their idol gods and their false religions. Then things kind of broke up, but there was a remnant among the Nephites and converted Lamanites that were true to the gospel of Christ. What we have is that the power center that arose here, the great power center of Teotihuacan, desired to unite or to get in league with the great Mayan city-states down here in the southern Mayan lowlands, like Tikal, Huaxactun, Dos Pilas, El Mirador, and many of these Mayan city-states formed a military league with the Gadianton robbers in the city of Teotihuacan. That put the Nephites in a pincer between the Teotihuacanos and the Mayans, or between the Nawa that I mentioned earlier, the Nawa region and the Maya region. The Nephites found themselves in a pincer. They were driven out of their land of Zarahemla, where they had been protected for so long because of this cul-de-sac. Remember in Alma 22:27 it says, there was a narrow strip of wilderness which ran from the sea east to the sea west, and round about on the borders of the seashore and the borders of the wilderness, that put this region, the land of Zarahemla, in a cul-de-sac. Later, Captain Moroni extended it. But these were the Nephite lands, and they were an important part of the Epi-Olmec. The Mixozoque Nephites became the Epi-Olmec civilization, with some converted Lamanites. But the Teotihuacanos, or the Gadianton robbers, and the Maya, or the Lamanites, wanted to trade across this isthmus, so they had to eliminate these pesky Isthmian people, the Epi-Olmec, which included the Nephites. In 385 AD, they exterminated the Nephites at Cumorah, which we think now is the volcanic mountain San Martin Pahapan. Exterminated the Nephites at 385 AD, and then by 400 AD they had exterminated all the Christians who still believed in Messiah, which came to later be called Quetzalcoatl. The Mayans called him Kukulkan. The Nahua called him Quetzalcoatl. But anyway, the true believers in the Messiah were exterminated. The Nephites at 385, and the rest of the Epi-Olmec believers by 400. And by 500 AD, this Isthmian civilization, the Epi-Olmec, was no longer there. It was totally expunged by 500 AD. But Mormon, one of the last prophet historian generals of the Nephite people, he buried the plates, the golden plates, in the Mormon's Cumorah here at San Martin Pahapan. His son Moroni carried the plates up through coastal Mexico, Texas, and up across the eastern United States to western New York, and buried them in Moroni's Cumorah. And now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey might say. Thank you.